Hi everybody at LCO. My name's Rachel and we've been in contact a little bit about potentially making some courses together about anatomy, physiology, and also about equine anatomy. I just wanted to quickly send in a video of my teaching style, the way that I set up my videos, and how I teach them. So the very first thing is obviously you can see me talking here, as well as being able to see the information that I'm going to be presenting to the students. So I like to have a talking head video. I think it really helps engage the students a little bit more. They don't really feel like they're just taking an online course where they're all by themselves, but instead they actually have their instructor with them, and they can email me to make sure that they know the material or if they have any questions. You'll also see here that I have my written notes. They're just on a Word document, but I can also do them in the PowerPoint form as seen in most of the osteopathy courses. Camtasia is the software that I use for editing my videos and making them really crisp and clean for the students. So you can see as I'm going to be teaching this, you'll see some of those effects where I can make my talking head bigger, I can move it from side to side, and so on. So with that, let's get started and I'll just show you a little bit of my teaching style and how I would tackle some of the topics in these courses. In today's lecture, we're going to be going over contractile muscle physiology. So the first thing we'll talk about are what muscle cells actually are. We're then going to talk about what are sarcomeres and how is a sarcomere going to work. The next topic is excitation and contraction. How are these going to relate together? And finally, we'll do a quick review of everything and some practice questions at the end. The first question we have here are, what are muscle cells? So a muscle cell is going to be a cell whose job it is to contract. So it's actually going to change shape and it's going to get shorter. We know that when we contract our bicep muscle, for example, we're going to have our forearm come closer to our shoulder. This muscle is actually shortening, so it's contracting and it's helping to move the bones of our body to produce locomotion. Now, we actually have three different types of muscles. The first one is the skeletal muscle, and that's the one we were really just talking about. So it's going to be used in the production of locomotion, and this one is going to be under voluntary control. So our brain can think it, and our body is going to do it. Now, the next two types of muscles, these ones are not under voluntary control. These are involuntary. So we have two different types here. We have the cardiac muscles. These are going to be the muscles found within our heart. And we also have these smooth muscles. These are involuntary as well, and they're going to be found in vessels, so blood vessels, as well as the organs of our body. Next, we'll just take a quick look at the anatomy of the muscle. So we're starting here on the left-hand side of the screen. We can see a person with very large muscles. Within this muscle, we're going to have a bundle of muscle fibers. Within this bundle of fibers, we're then going to have, of course, many different fibers, and the fibers are then going to be broken down into myofibrils. So it's kind of like those Chinese dolls that you can take one out and there's a smaller one inside and a smaller one inside of that again. So once we get down to this microscopic level, this is where we're actually going to have the contraction of the muscle taking place. So we have lots of different myofibrils that are going to contract, and when they all do this at the same time, we're going to have contraction of the entire muscle. So the myofibril is actually then further broken down into two different types of myofibrils. One of them is called actin, the other one is called myosin, and we're going to see that more on the next page. So let's just get acquainted with this picture here. We are again looking at a muscle fiber, and the muscle fibers have lots of different myofibrils within them. The myofibrils are containing the actin as well as the myosin. So you can see here there's parts that are red, which would be this part here, and we can also see parts that are blue in here. So these two parts, one of them is actin and the other is myosin, they're going to come together, contracting the myofibrils and bringing the ends closer together. So there's actually a shortening of the muscle when all the myofibrils contract at the same time. Now the next image we're going to look at is just going to be one of these sections of the myofibril. So it might just be something like this little section here. And these sections are actually going to be called sarcomeres. So the sarcomere is the contractile unit of the muscle. We have many different sarcomeres within a myofibril, and they're going to contract and bring the ends of the myofibril closer together. Let's go over some of the terminology you need to know about the sarcomere. So here we have the Z line. That's right in here. The Z line is going to be the center of the actin filaments. So you can see we have actin filaments all going along this direction as well as the other direction. We have the same thing on the other side of the sarcomere. So we have a Z line accompanied by many different actins. In the center, we're going to have the myosin filaments. So these ones are going to be a little bit thicker, and you can see them here, they are in red. The center of the myosin filaments, this is called the M line. We're almost done with terminology now. We only have 2 more words to go over, and it's going to tell us how the muscle is going to contract. So the last 2 things we need to know are the I band and the A band. So the A band, you can see, is the length of the myosin filaments. The I band, this is going to be the length of the actin filament that is only actin. So there's no myosin within this area. Now, when the muscle actually contracts, there's going to be a sliding of these filaments together. So if you look at my fingers here, the center, this is where there's going to be the overlap. So the A band is located in this area. The I band is going to be located in this area, just outside, where there's only actin filaments. Now, when a muscle contracts, there's going to be sliding together of this sarcomere. So the entire length of the sarcomere is actually going to shorten. The I bands will shorten because there's less where there's only actin. And the A band is actually going to stay the same size. So the actin filaments are just being pulled in, but the myosin, the actual length of the myosin and actin are not changing. They're just going to be sliding together. So with that, we've actually talked about all of these different definitions about the sarcomere. So I really encourage you to go through and write out the definitions as you've heard in this video. You can also see in the image down here that I've included another picture of the sarcomere once it has completely contracted. So you can see that the I bands have become smaller, but the A band is going to remain the same length. Okay, so hello LCO staff. That is my teaching style. That's usually how I go about doing it. I'm definitely open to different ways of teaching. If we want to use PowerPoints, that's no problem at all. If you'd rather have just audio with no talking head, that's also possible. Now, I would then go on to talk about the myosin ATP cycle and go through some of the terminology. I would do a quick review at the end and possibly a practice question if we want to go that route. If we would rather just have lectures, then that's no problem. We don't have to have practice questions. We'll just include them in the quizzes or the exam at the end. Now, another thing I think would be really cool to include in these courses is actually using zygote body and showing where the muscles are and being able to rotate the person around. The website for zygote body actually isn't working at this moment, so I'm just including some pictures here. And there's also actually some for other animals. So here we can see a cow. I know that they do create them for horses as well, a pretty in-depth one actually. We would have to look into the copywriting and see if we're actually able to use them in our videos, but I think that would be a really great tool that students can see exactly where muscles are, organs, and so on. Included in some of the horse courses as well, I would love to do some real animal videos. I could use chalk or possibly charcoal depending on the color of the animal and actually draw on the muscles from the outside of where the muscles are on the horse. So I thought this would be really useful when I was going through material, so I think it would be great to include that for future students. So that's all I have for you guys. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I'm totally flexible and welcome to feedback. If this is something that you can see as the future for LCO, I would love to work with you guys. Can't wait to hear from you soon.